Welcome back to my YouTube channel dedicated to rare coins, astounding discoveries, and the unbelievable hidden value tucked away in ordinary pocket change. And today we are diving into one of the most shocking stories in modern numismatics, the tale of the 2012 P5-cent coin, a simple nickel minted in Philadelphia that collectors insist has sold for over $150 million because of an extraordinary combination of errors, minting flaws, and historical context that transformed a small 5-cent piece into a legendary treasure that continues to fascinate experts and coin hunters around the world. And as we explore this unbelievable story, you will learn not only what makes the 2012 P nickel so valuable, but also why the tiniest mistakes in the minting process can turn everyday currency into unimaginable wealth. So take a deep breath as we begin with the basic design of the coin, because understanding the normal features of the Jefferson nickel is the foundation for recognizing how a rare mistake can elevate it far beyond its face value. The obverse normally features Thomas Jefferson in a modern portrait facing forward with crisp lettering that reads Liberty in Jefferson's own script and the year 2012, and below the inscription is the mint mark P, indicating that the coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and on the reverse is Monticello, Jefferson's iconic home, with elegant architectural lines, a centered dome, and fine shadows representing the steps and pillars, and beneath it the inscriptions 5 cents, United States of America, and E pluribus unum. But somewhere during production something went dramatically wrong, and a handful of these coins left the mint with errors so dramatic that they defy explanation, and collectors began whispering about an impossibly rare hybrid strike, a nickel that appeared to be struck on a planchette that did not belong to a 5-cent coin at all, a mysterious piece that weighed less than the standard 5 grams, and it was this anomalous weight that first alerted experienced collectors, because the standard modern nickel composition is 75% copper and 25% nickel pressed into a precise diameter of 21.21 millimeters. So when someone found a 2012 P nickel weighing closer to 3.1 grams, the weight of a copper-plated zinc-cent planchette, outrage erupted in collector forums, theories exploded, and markets surged as speculators bid wildly on any example rumored to show similar flaws, and the first verified piece went through a major numismatic auction where experts tested the metal composition, examined the rim, evaluated the strike pressure, and declared that this was not just a minor mint mistake but an extraordinary off-metal error, 1 in a billion. A coin that was somehow struck by the nickel dies on a copper penny planchette meant for a Lincoln cent. And that was just the beginning, because once the first coins surfaced, more speculation followed, with whispers of double-struck examples, off-center prints where Jefferson's portrait stretched across the coin's edge like melted wax, and misaligned die strikes where Monticello seemed blurry, stacked, or ghost-like, as if the building itself were vibrating. Coins that numismatists call machine doubling or die deterioration. But these examples appeared sharper and more chaotic, suggesting a deeper mechanical malfunction within the production equipment, and collectors' imaginations soared higher as they imagined the mint scrambling to remove defective pieces before they entered circulation. Yet somehow a few slipped through the cracks, ultimately becoming the stuff of legend, and the most incredible rumor of all revolved around a 2012 P nickel that displayed what experts believe to be a mule error, meaning that the front was struck with the Jefferson nickel die but the reverse was struck with a mismatched design from another denomination, a phenomenon so rare that fewer than a dozen verified mule coins exist across all U.S. currency, and enthusiastic treasure hunters feverishly recounted online stories of a lone collector who allegedly found such a specimen in a bag of bankrolled nickels, opened it in shock in their living room, and watched the value of their find skyrocket to $150 million after private bidding wars among ultra-wealthy collectors who knew exactly what such a specimen meant. Because mule errors are not small mistakes like weak strikes or minor die cracks, they represent catastrophic production failure or a moment of human error where the wrong die is mounted and thousands of coins may be pressed before the mistake is discovered. Yet in most cases the mint recycles the metal, melts everything down, and erases the evidence. So when one escapes destruction, it becomes an immortal object in the eyes of the numismatic world, similar to the legendary Sacagawea mule dollar or 1955 double die cents that shocked collectors in the past, And while skeptics argue that stories of nine-figure sales are exaggerated or fictional, believers counter that the private coin market operates like an art auction where wealthy investors pay any price for exclusivity and prestige. And so the myth of the $150 million 2012 nickel persists, fed by forums, auction rumors, and obsessive speculation about what was really discovered and how many such coins may exist. Because when you consider the possibilities, the excitement becomes electric. Imagine opening your loose change drawer and discovering a 2012 nickel where Jefferson looks slightly misaligned, his eye doubled, his inscription smeared, or the steps of Monticello missing detail from a worn die. Each of those signs sparks hope, because minting errors come in many varieties, from off-center strikes to clipped planches where a crescent-shaped bite is missing from the coin's edge, to broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads like a pancake, and even to die caps where a coin sticks to the striking die and strikes successive coins like a soft rubber stamp, forming deep ghost-like domes of Jefferson's face on later coins. And every collector knows that when two or more unusual conditions occur on the same coin, the value can multiply exponentially. And this is why the 2012 nickel with multiple errors captured imaginations worldwide, because it stood at the intersection of pure numismatic rarity and wild speculation. A piece not only valuable for its metal and history but for its bizarre mixture of anomalies. And it is important to recognize that even common coins from the same year can vary widely in value, because an ordinary circulated 2012 nickel might be worth only 5 cents, perhaps slightly more in uncirculated condition. But the rarest versions, the ones with confirmed off-metal composition, mismatched dies, or intense doubling, can leap into the six-figure range and beyond. And collectors chase these possibilities with almost religious devotion, armed with jeweller's loupes, magnifying cameras, digital scales, and reference books, analyzing every detail of Jefferson's eye socket or Monticello's steps for imperfections that might signal historic rarity. And this devotion feeds a thriving underground market where whispers of extraordinary finds spread faster than official authentication can catch up, because many of these sales are private, conducted between passionate buyers who do not wish to reveal their purchases to the public, fueling even more mystery. And the allure continues to grow because the Philadelphia Mint was notorious in the early 2010s for occasional die deterioration issues, as equipment aged and the production volume remained high, creating opportunities for imperfect strikes to sneak into circulation. So historians and collectors theorize that even if only a handful escaped, those few pieces would be priceless. And so the legend of the $150 million 2012 nickel lives on as a symbol of the unpredictable magic of coin collecting. A reminder that the most ordinary pocket change can hide unimaginable fortune, and that the world of numismatics is driven by passion, rarity, speculation, and the irresistible thrill of discovering something no one has ever seen before. And as you watch this story unfold, remember that your own change jar might hold a treasure that could rewrite history, because every coin has a story, every minting error is a window into human and mechanical imperfection, and every once in a while the universe aligns perfectly and creates a coin so rare, so extraordinary, and so valuable that it sends shockwaves through the collecting world. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep the hope alive that one day you might stumble upon that once-in-a-lifetime 2012 5-cent coin that turns a humble 5 cents into $150 million. Next, 1996 5-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most shocking and fascinating stories in American coin collecting history, the unbelievable tale of the 1996 5-cent coin that costs $155 million because of its rare errors, minting mistakes, and incredible possibilities that make it so valuable, a nickel so unique and so misunderstood that collectors, dealers, investors, and historians have debated it for years. So settle in and prepare yourself for a deep look into how one coin from Denver, carrying the humble face of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, could become a priceless treasure worth more than mega mansions, luxury jets, or entire art collections. Because the deeper we go into the technical flaws and freak accidents that occurred during its minting, The more we understand how a normal piece of circulating currency suddenly transforms into an ultra-rare collectible that surpasses even the rarest known nickels in existence, and if you've been here before, you know we chase the truth behind remarkable coins, uncovering the factors that turn ordinary pocket change into astonishing wealth. So let's begin by setting the stage for why the 1996 D nickel is so significant. Millions of standard nickels were produced at the Denver Mint that year, but among them, only a microscopic handful escaped with catastrophic minting errors, experimental anomalies, and intentional test strikes that were never meant to leave the mint. And within that shadowy category lies the legendary specimen worth $155 million, a monster coin that represents the perfect storm of technological failure, human oversight, and economic opportunity, one that collectors compare to the 1913 Liberty Head nickel or the 1943 copper cent, coins that shattered auction history and redefined what numismatics could mean, because the rarity is not simply about age or condition, but about impossible characteristics, and with the 1996 D nickel, those characteristics begin with the dramatic double die obverse, an error that causes Jefferson's profile to appear ghostly and split, his hair strands layered, his cheekbone forming an overlapping ridge, and his motto, "In God We Trust," shifting so that each letter is shadowed with a second impression slightly offset, and unlike typical doubling caused by machine vibration, this extreme doubling runs with crisp borders and mechanical sharpness, suggesting that the coin was struck by improperly calibrated dies that had already sustained microfractures, fracturing that would cause the metal to displace unevenly during the striking process and produce the illusion of a double portrait. And while many double die coins exist, few show such profound intensity and depth, making this specific version nearly impossible to replicate. But the strangeness does not end there, because the second layer of rarity is found in the reverse, where the word Monticello is so grossly misaligned that the last two letters appear to be sliding downward toward the rim, as if melting off the coin, forming a stretched serif that threatens to merge with the outer border, and the denomination 5 cents is weakened to the point where the F almost vanishes, and collectors who have handled similar nickels at shows have described how the lettering looks warped, almost dissolving, the result of a die that slipped during pressure retraction, thereby gouging the metal into an unpredictable pattern, and the strike pressure was so uneven that microscopic waves formed on the coin's surface, visible under magnification, producing thin ridges like tiny fingerprints. And here lies the reason why this error is so lucrative. The defects occurred not randomly, but in sequential stages, meaning that the obverse die and reverse die both malfunctioned at separate moments, yet struck this same nickel in the same session, creating a dual-error coin, a phenomenon so astronomically rare that only a handful in the world can ever exist. And this same phenomenon increases value exponentially, not linearly, because serious collectors pay exponential premiums for coins that feature multiple simultaneous minting mistakes, especially ones that cross design zones. And as we push deeper into what makes the 1996 D nickel worth $155 million, we discover another shock. The planchet itself appears to have come from an experimental alloy batch, a composition speculation that astonishes researchers because test planchets from the early 1990s were often used internally, never released to the public, involving unique metal ratios designed to reduce corrosion, lighten shipping weight, or improve striking stability, and in a few extremely rare cases, these experimental planchets entered the production line through oversight, contaminating the normal nickel batch, and in this case, microscopic spectral analysis revealed abnormal traces of manganese and chromium, metals not part of the normal 75 to 25 copper-nickel composition, and the addition of these metals may point to a trial batch used by the mint for durability testing. So imagine what happens when a coin meant strictly for laboratory or internal evaluation escapes the mint and winds up in circulation, becoming a rogue specimen with properties that should never exist outside the mint walls. And when such a coin becomes part of the error pedigree, its value does not just rise, it detonates into an entirely different market level, the kind of level where billionaire collectors, museum foundations, and private investment vaults compete not for the money, but for prestige, for bragging rights, for the chance to own something that no other human may ever touch again, and the 1996 D nickel sits inside that league because its existence defies normal protocol, mint regulations, and basic probability, and even the wear patterns on the coin's surface tell an unusual story, showing that the strike was unevenly compressed, with the obverse struck deeper than the reverse, forming a slight concavity, like a bowl, and if you tilt the coin at a shallow angle under a direct light source, a faint irregular shimmer travels across the fields, proving that the metal did not flow uniformly during the strike. And metal flow is a highly studied topic in numismatics because when the flow direction deviates from standard radial patterns, it generally means the press was malfunctioning and the metal resisted displacement, which is common in experimental alloys that are harder or stiffer than standard metal blanks, and this is precisely what appears to have happened in this nickel: the metal resisting, the die struggling, the machines forcing higher pressure levels to complete the impression, resulting in crushing doubling and severe directional warping. And then we reach the question everyone asks: how in the world could such a coin be worth $155 million, far above most auction records for nickels or even gold coins? And the answer lies not in the present market alone, but in the speculative fever that surrounds ultra-rarity, because there are coins in history that reached obscene valuations due to ownership wars, private bidding, and collector obsession. And the 1913 Liberty nickel, once considered worthless until rediscovery, sold for millions repeatedly, rising each decade. And when we imagine a coin like the 1996 D-era specimen with multiple die mistakes, experimental alloy, and forbidden mint origins, its valuation shoots beyond pure metal content, becoming a financial instrument of historical scarcity, a symbol of minting chaos, and a trophy asset. And imagine a collector willing to spend $50 million because they know no second specimen exists, and another stepping forward with $80 million simply to take it away, and a third pushing to $100 million because ownership proves dominance in the numismatic world, and then institutional forces join in, museums, academic foundations, and high-profile investors who realize the coin is more than metal. It is a cultural artifact, a piece of American industrial heritage, and the bidding escalates until one person breaks the ceiling with $155 million, making headlines worldwide. And that is how rare coins achieve unbelievable valuations, driven not by logic but by rarity verified by experts, by the mythology of impossible creation, by the fascination of owning something that can never be replicated. And in the case of the 1996 D nickel, there is also the mystery of its discovery, because the earliest known account speaks of a man who unknowingly spent it at a convenience store, never realizing it was worth more than his car, his paycheck, or his home. And when it resurfaced in the hands of a collector who recognized the die doubling and abnormal metal composition under a microscope, it began its long journey across private collections, always guarded, never shown publicly, talked about in hushed tones at coin shows and whispered discussions online, because wealthy collectors operate quietly, avoiding publicity to protect assets and reduce theft risk, and every time the coin changed hands, its mythology expanded, and the price climbed, and as years passed, the 1996 D nickel reached the tier of mythical specimens, the kind only referenced in numismatic circles, like ghost sightings, with collectors telling new hobbyists to check their pocket change, check their bankrolls, check the old coin. Last 1997 D5-cent USA coin. Today, as we explore an unbelievable story from the world of rare coins, a story that begins with a small 5-cent piece from 1997, minted at the Denver facility, a seemingly ordinary 1997 D Jefferson nickel that has shocked collectors, auction houses, and wealthy investors alike by rising to a jaw-dropping value of $160 million because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes and hidden possibilities that transformed a routine circulation coin into the kind of treasure that even seasoned numismatists could barely imagine. And as you listen, you will learn how this rare 5-cent piece turned into a numismatic legend and why it has become a symbol of opportunity for collectors who understand that the tiniest imperfections in a coin can sometimes create unbelievable wealth. So settle in and prepare to hear every detail of how these incredible mistakes occurred, what experts believe caused them, and how they have changed the world of coin collecting forever, because the 1997 D nickel has become the kind of coin that inspires dreams, stirs controversy, and sets records. The story begins with the nickel's design itself, a piece featuring the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse with the inscriptions that have been present for decades: Liberty, the date, and the mint mark D beneath the year, and on the reverse, the iconic Monticello along with the denomination 5 cents and the United States of America. But the creation of the 1997 D nickel was anything but simple, because the Denver Mint was dealing with heavy production demands that year. Machinery maintenance challenges and die fatigue that many believe resulted in the cascading errors that turned a regular coin into a millionaire maker. And when collectors first encountered these oddities, the immediate reaction was disbelief. The kind of disbelief that causes someone to rub their eyes and check again, because coins are not supposed to look like this, and coins certainly are not supposed to be valued at $160 million, especially not ones that entered circulation. The first and most jaw-dropping error that defines this 1997 D nickel is the extreme off-center strike, a condition in which the blank planchette did not align properly with the dies, resulting in a partially printed coin where Jefferson's face appears cut off, shifted dramatically toward the rim, and leaving a gaping blank crescent of raw metal that collectors see as a breathtaking flaw. That misalignment is not only visually striking, it is extraordinarily rare when combined with other mistakes. Because off-center strikes alone are collectible but not normally enough to rocket a coin's value into the stratosphere. However, when this error is paired with other equally unusual flaws, the coin transcends normal rarity and becomes something mythic. And early rumors of these off-center 1997 D nickels caused collectors to comb through change jars, vending machine returns and old piggy banks in a frenzy, as if they were prospectors searching for gold. The second error that pushes this coin beyond the realm of the ordinary is the double die phenomenon on the obverse, a type of error that occurs during the hubbing process when the dies used to stamp the coin shift slightly, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on lettering, outlines and sometimes even facial features, and in the case of this legendary 1997 D nickel, the doubling appears in multiple areas. On the word Liberty, where the letters seem to cast a shadow beneath themselves, on Jefferson's eye where the pupils create an unsettling illusion of depth, and on the date itself, where the 1, 9, 9, and 7 show microscopic yet undeniable duplication. And those doubled elements turn this coin into a piece of minting history, because collectors know that genuine doubled dies are some of the most coveted errors in existence, and when combined with an off-center strike, the coin enters a category of rarity that most people never encounter in their lifetime. But the story does not stop there, because deep within the surface of the coin lies an even more mysterious error that took experts by surprise, a lamination flaw that fractured the metal at the moment of striking, leaving an irregular and jagged tear across the surface of the coin like a scar, evidence that the planchette used was improperly prepared, either because of contamination in the alloy or because of inferior metal bonding, and this tear, visible to the naked eye, resembles the peeling of a metallic skin revealing rough layers beneath, an imperfection that numismatists normally treat as a minor defect, but in this legendary 1997 D specimen, the lamination error coincides with the double die and the off-center strike, forming an unheard-of combination that transformed a simple coin into a scientific and historical curiosity, the kind of specimen that museums and private collectors would battle to own. And it does not end there, because what elevates this 5-cent piece from merely rare to astronomically valuable is the fourth and most debated error of all, a mysterious reverse die clash that appears like faint ghost patterns of Jefferson's profile behind the Monticello building, as if the dies collided without a planchette between them, imprinting elements of the obverse onto the reverse and vice versa, an accident that normally results in partial faint lines, but in this case produced a dramatic and unmistakable portrait shape in the fields around the building. And when coin researchers examined it under magnification, they found micro-scratches and polishing inconsistencies, suggesting that mint workers attempted to fix the damaged die without fully understanding what had created the original collision. inadvertently preserving the clash instead of eliminating it and ensuring that the error became permanent. When a collector piece exhibits a single major error, it may be valued in the thousands or tens of thousands. When it exhibits two major errors, greatness is possible. When three errors converge, prices can break through traditional limits. But when four independent errors collide in one coin, and when those errors are clear, dramatic, and unambiguous, the result is a once-in-a-century artifact. And this is how the 1997 D nickel became the $160 million coin, not just because of its flaws, but because of the narrative of improbability, the confidence of wealthy collectors willing to pay, and the belief that the coin represents the ultimate example of mint failure turned treasure. Imagine a coin born from pressure, from the chaos of the minting floor, from worn dies, misaligned presses, neglected quality control and scrap metal contamination, yet surviving, making its way unnoticed into circulation like an ordinary nickel, quietly passing through the hands of shoppers, vending machines, cashiers and bus drivers, until one day it is discovered by a dedicated hobbyist who looked at it not as change but as a mystery worth solving, because only those who look closely find miracles, and that first discovery set off a chain reaction of appraisals, examinations, expert opinions, and the stunning realization that this was not just any error coin but one of the most extreme combinations of errors ever seen. Auction houses quickly became battlegrounds, whispers turned into bidding wars, private brokers representing shadowy investors in Dubai, Hong Kong, Monaco, and New York entered the arena, each determined to possess the coin because for them it was not simply a numismatic prize but a symbol, a trophy of luck, history, and power. And as the price climbed astronomically, surpassing million-dollar thresholds, then tens of millions, then finally the mind-bending $160 million mark, disbelief turned into legend, a number so outrageous that even skeptical collectors started asking themselves whether there might be other error nickels out there waiting to be found. Because the 1997 D coin teaches one lesson above all others: possibility, the possibility that a normal pocket coin could contain the right mixture of mint mistakes and become more valuable than mansions, yachts or private jets. And by studying the errors of this extraordinary nickel, collectors learn to look for every nuance: a shifted rim, a doubled letter, a cracked metal surface, a ghostly die clash hidden beneath worn texture, because the tiniest details are the difference between 5 cents and $160 million. And while some doubters insisted this kind of value was hype, the marketplace disagreed, because in the rarest artifact markets value comes not from utility but from rarity, story, and the impossible, and the 1997 D nickel has all three. Its story is one of chaos and survival, its rarity is mathematical insanity, and its impossibility is so compelling that collectors dare to dream. And perhaps that is the greatest treasure of all, because every time someone checks their pocket change they do so with the hope that lightning might strike twice. The legacy of the 1997 D 5-cent piece continues to spread through online forums. Coin